Hi, my name is Mark Nejma and I'm a investor in synthetic biologics. About a year ago, I was laying in a hospital bed and I had a heart attack. But then all of a sudden I got very bad diarrhea that was coming out of me. It looked like bile. It was yellow. And, the hospital got upset right away. They wanted to figure out exactly what was going on. And, they said, well, maybe you have C. diff. So they isolated me from other patients. And the doctor came in, the gastroenterologist, and she said, well, there's no cure for C. diff, so, we have to keep you isolated. And, you know, having a heart attack and then being isolated is not exactly the easiest thing to do when you have two things wrong with you. So I asked the doctor, there's a young doctor, and I said, well, is there any cure at all? I mean, can you do something about it? He says, no. The drug that they thought would work did not work. So right away, myself being an optimist, and even though I still had my heart attack to worry about, which they hadn't operated on yet, I immediately pulled out my phone and started to search for companies that were doing research or had drugs for C. diff. And I came across synthetic biologics. That's how I got involved in the stock. Uh, I then found out that they had a stockholders meeting, and since I had initially bought 200,000 shares, I drove down to Maryland and kind of interrupted their stockholders meeting, and of course I was the only person there. Similar to the way I went to a stockholder meeting in Ireland a couple weeks ago, and I was the only one there. So I suppose I have some insight into the management of the company. Uh, I met with the people. They seemed a little bit sketchy, secretive. They didn't want to tell me much, but I listened and I was just paying attention. And then I sort of broke them down somewhat and met with Stephen Shawcross, and he seemed very sincere about wanting to do the right thing for the stockholders and making the company good. Uh, I've already explained the people that were there. It was a CFO, it was the investor relations person, it was a secretary. Very big office, very small staff. I also met with the contract uh, manufacturer that they were to use, and he's the one who gave me most insight, and that was that, it's a very difficult thing to get a drug approved. He was very clear and didn't want to get my hopes up that anything could possibly get approved. But Stephen Shawcross is the one that impressed me the most because, he was straightforward. You could see that he was very authoritative, very concerned with his performance, his own personal performance, and he assured me that good things were going to be happening for the company. I went back for another stockholders meeting. He actually wasn't there, but he was on a conference call, and I met with some people there. Again, very secretive. The lawyer was on the line and so forth. So I suppose that these companies are really afraid when people show up for shareholders meetings. And I think it's very important that you do show up for shareholders meetings. Otherwise, you're never going to get the insight that I have, which, by the way, may not be accurate. However, true to form, Stephen Shawcross went out and he took the cash he had after explaining to me that he didn't want to spend all his cash on trying to get phase 3 done for SYN 04. He said it would cost $80 million to get that done. He went out and found some other drugs to add to the pipeline. That to me was a business action that made a lot of sense to me. And that's why I'm sticking with synthetic biologics. Stephen Shawcross basically crossed the pond, so to speak, went to Spain, found VCN, and got me very excited because I know people that have died from pancreatic cancer. You know people that have died from pancreatic cancer too. Steve Jobs died of it. And it's a horrible, horrible disease. Now, I was just thinking, back in the 1980s when I was a young roofer, uh, I worked with a lot of Haitian guys and a lot of different people, some pretty rough characters. Great people, though. And, the rumors were that, a lot of Haitians had AIDS. When things happen, when people get sick and you have a virus that's spreading through society, people point the fingers at everybody. If you grew up in the 80s, you would know that, it was a horrible disease. People just for having sex were dying. And there was no cure at all. No cure whatsoever. It was the most ravaging, devastating disease around. They said mostly gay men, but, if you were a straight heterosexual man, you'd have to worry too. People were afraid to use toilets. It was crazy. Well, fortunately, I guess for society, uh, they now have ways of treating it and keeping you alive. Now, the only way that happened is because there was investment in many, many different companies, some that failed, some that didn't fail. And lo and behold, they found a solution. Basically, people can now live with AIDS, and people, I believe, can have sex unprotected, I believe, as long as they don't show that they have AIDS, they can be safe. After living through the 80s, after seeing how people were persecuted for who they were because there were rumors in society, I realized that the pharmaceutical industry was very, very important. And people that take risk in investing in those companies were very, very important. Like you. You're very important. You're very important when you invest your money in a company that's going after a solution to solve a problem. Now, I'll tell you right now, there's a lot of bad medicine on the stock boards. A lot of bad medicine. People with really nasty attitudes. You don't know who to believe. You don't know what they're telling you, if it's truth or if it's false. It's a disgusting place. Even YouTube can be misleading and people can lie about things. Myself, Mark Nejma, living in Clearwater, Florida, the guy who got lucky in the stock market, you kind of know who I am. I'm going to tell you the way it is. I am looking at the way the stock is trading. And as I said prior to um, Monday's uh, action of the reverse split, I knew that they were going to be driving the stock price down. Now, don't take financial advice from me. You got to make your own decisions. But I'm looking at the trading. We have what was equivalent to uh, 2 million shares traded by the old price, or 200,000 shares traded by the new price. And it seems like they're really going after the stock. Now, I wouldn't get my hopes up. I'm not saying that we're going to get a cure for pancreatic cancer out of investing in this company, comparing it to the AIDS crisis that happened not so long ago. Uh, but I am saying that we're in the right place in terms of taking a risk. We have to take a risk in these pharmaceutical companies, and we have to stand firm in the belief that there can be a cure. We can't have the negative attitude that, oh, it's just politics and nobody really wants to cure cancer, and, oh, it's all a hoax, and the CEO's getting paid too much, and it's just a ripoff, and it's reverse split, and they're going to dilute, and so forth. I want you to step back, especially if you're my age, and think about AIDS. Think about the crisis that we all lived through, where we were afraid to sit on a toilet, for God's sakes. You were afraid to kiss somebody. You were disgusted. You would be embarrassed if you actually got AIDS. Now, think about those days and how impossible it seemed that there could ever be a cure. But there was. Now they've got things that can help people live a normal life. Now think about what you're doing here with synthetic biologics or Iterum or any other pharmaceutical company. You're part of the solution. Maybe. I'm part of the solution. Maybe. And maybe if we're part of the right solution, we're going to make some money. Now, a guy like me that's had 3 heart attacks, that when he stands up gets dizzy, somebody who sees his disease progressing, that knows that, the only thing that helped me will get a new heart. To me, I think that I understand pharmaceuticals a lot better. I take about 20 pills a day. No, they're not all vitamins. They're mostly medicine. And I'm amazed at how if I miss in the morning, I feel super sick by the time it's 2 o'clock. So what I'm saying to you is this. Sure, we could lose our money, but we could be heroes too just because we've invested in this company. And as they move forward, they're going to either sell off the product or they're going to need financing, and we should be ready for that. A good company will dilute after the stock price has risen substantially. I think that's what will happen eventually if the drugs become very successful in terms of phase 1, 2, 2B, and so forth. I think that I want to stick with this because I know the horrors. 1986 or 87, my ex-father-in-law, sweetest man on earth, 6'2", I guess, or thereabouts, Jim Mulligan, used to run a restaurant, hot dog stand in front of a hot boiling oil and put hot dogs on the rolls, made his own sauce, cut pastrami, make cheesesteaks, make the peppers and onions every day, broke his ass. 56, dead. Matter of fact, that's how old Steve Jobs was when he died. Where's the stock going? If that's all you're worried about, you got the wrong idea about life. I think that I trust Stephen Shawcross, and until he fails, until there's bad news from the company, I'm sticking with SYN. As a matter of fact, in the past 4 days, I bought another, okay? Last week, I bought 20,000 more shares. And over the past 2 days, I bought another 5,000 shares at the higher price. I got a hunch, a gut feel that maybe this drug or C. diff drug might make a difference. And that's why I'm holding SYN stock. You do whatever you want to do. I'm not giving you any advice. I'm just kind of talking about life and how important it is to pay attention. Have a nice evening, folks. Maybe I'll talk to you tomorrow. I'll be on the road, most likely to Chicago. But have a good one. This is Mark from newsweed.com. Remember, it's never as it seems. Thanks.